Let's see what's popular on TikTok. Look what the evil orange man wants to take away from us. He wants to take away Nyan Nyan from me. No, you not take Nyan Nyan, orange man. You not take Nyan Nyan. But all jokes aside, I do not understand how TikTok became so famous. I mean, it's literally the same thing you can do on YouTube. You can upload 10 seconds videos here. Like, why do you need a different app to do that? Maybe I'm a boomer. Maybe I don't get the younger generation. But to me, it's just weird. But it is famous, you know, the numbers speak for itself. And it all started when Apple found out that TikTok is spyware, which is not a shocker in and of itself. I mean, all social medias do that to a certain extent. Think about the data Facebook collects about you. That's why these services are free mostly. They're not making that much money from ad revenue as they're making from gathering information, compiling it into a list, and then selling it to third-party software. There was even this really interesting story with Facebook where a father was getting diaper ads and baby products, and he literally didn't understand why. And then he finds out later that his daughter is pregnant. Like, Facebook knew about it even before they told Facebook. And the way it works is like you connect with your family members, right? And his daughter was starting to look for baby products online, and the Facebook algorithm were like, okay, so they're having a baby, and then they were bombarding their entire family with ads about babies. Like, this is not something that most people understand how it works. This is not something that most people even expect, unless you actually read their terms of service. Well, in the case of TikTok, they didn't mention in their terms of service that they do this. It's literally spyware. And the problem is that it's run by the Chinese government. It's not run by a US company. And a lot of Western people don't really understand China. They think about it like some other Western country. They think about it like Australia or Germany or France. It's not really like that. It's completely different. And I'll explain to you why. So, for example, when Donald Trump decided to ban Huawei, it upset the Chinese people. And they started recording themselves on social media smashing iPhones, burning iPhones. You had CEOs say that any person that records themselves destroying an iPhone will get from the company a Huawei for free. That's a better model. And they might even get a bonus from their company. Just imagine the different way of thinking in China. They're not multiculturalist at all. In America, if people don't want to go to Asian restaurants because they're afraid of the virus, they're called racist. Like, the idea of boycotting a company that comes from a country you don't like is considered racist in the West. Meanwhile, in China, it's encouraged to boycott companies that you don't like. Okay, so that's like number one. That's the difference in thinking that you need to understand between the two cultures. And secondly, what's even more interesting is that a lot of people, when they hear about a Chinese company, they think in the same way they hear about an American company. In America, companies have a lot more freedom from the government, and they can even criticize the government and the leadership. And a lot of people from America think it's the same in China. It's really not. Companies in China do benefit from certain freedom, but the government can always seize control. Like, the government is like this entity that can assume control over an independent company whenever they want. And they can decide whatever they want. Because in China, it's an authoritarian regime. If the government by law can't do something right now, there's nothing stopping it from passing the legislation that will allow them to do that thing tomorrow. It's similar to the terms of service on Patreon, right? Like, today, the terms of service might say one thing, and tomorrow they can just re-update all their terms of service and say completely different things. It's the same with the Chinese government, if you will. So if you want to do business in China, you have to obey the Chinese government. They have to actually de facto tell your company what they can and can't do, which is something that doesn't exist in the US. And this is why a lot of Chinese companies are gathering information from their Western customers. It's not because they all think the same or it's something with them. No, it's like the Chinese government is imposing them to do this. It's forcing them to do this. It's why a lot of American companies call themselves progressives and they're for LGBT issues and all of that. But they never criticize China. It's because they're afraid. If they criticize China, the Chinese government at any time unilaterally can say, okay, you can't do business here. It's why Blizzard bends itself over like a pretzel in order to please their Chinese overlords. Because if they upset their Chinese overlords, then they can't do business in China. And the people of China can't do anything about it. Like if the government says this company is banned, they can't do anything. So it's very funny when I see the US president treating a Chinese company exactly the same, like 100% the same, the way China treats American companies. And I see all these people getting upset, all these people getting livid, like, oh, how dare you treat them the same? Oh, no, you shouldn't do this. No, I think you should. I literally think you should. Like, why should a foreign company spy on American citizens? And it's not only that. You know what's really annoying about all these social media companies? Is that the only reason they're popular is because the members on the site are creating and making content for them, and thus they are becoming popular. Like, for example, TikTok doesn't produce any content. They don't produce the things that people want to see. No, it's the members on the site. And think about it, like you have hundreds of millions of Americans producing content, and in exchange you spy on them, in exchange you gather information from them. Like, that's horrible. So I'm not going to side with them. I'm sorry. And you know what? Who doesn't side with them? David Hogg. Like, look at David Hogg here. TikTok is a national security threat that should only be used to call out the Chinese government who controls it for their atrocities and human rights abuses. Seriously, y'all memes and jokes are fun, but downloading the spyware of an authoritarian regime is not. How can I disagree with David Hogg? It's like wisdom itself has come from the heaven and drifted upon this child. It's really enlightening what he has to say. Like, you know what? I'm going to follow David Hogg now. Like, if he's going to give these bastions of wisdom, maybe I'll learn new things in life. Oh, but wait, something has happened. There is a disturbance in the force. Also David Hogg. Imagine being so scared teenagers are going to vote you out. You ban one of their top platforms for communication. What could have happened? What? Oh yes, Donald Trump is now agreeing with David Hogg. See, people say objective morality doesn't exist. People say, especially progressive people, who are atheists, do not believe in objective morality. They do. It's like whatever Donald Trump says, they will do the opposite. Like, heaven forbid Donald Trump ever criticizes income disparity in America. Like, you would see the progressives become some of the most conservative people out there, right? Like, they will be some, like, hard-right capitalism if he does that. I hope the US president never, ever addresses income inequality. And secondly, what actually makes a platform quite famous is appealing to the normies, like being on iPhone, like being in the iStore or being in the Google Play Store. If it's being banned in the United States, it's not going to be on those stores. So a lot fewer people are going to download it. And sure, like if it's getting banned, you might still have a couple of dedicated users from the United States that get to see it. But overwhelmingly, it would take such a massive hit that you would see a major drop in the content that's being produced there. So yeah, no, banning these things works, which is why China is like, well, okay, can we find a workaround? And the workaround would be to sell it to an American company. And it seems that Microsoft is willing to buy it. Again, more cancer, but another Silicon Valley company. I kind of like if TikTok wouldn't have this spyware, and they wouldn't tinker with the algorithm, I would have preferred it in a way. Because at least you have to adhere to Chinese censorship, which is different than American censorship. So if you want to talk about a topic that's not okay to talk about according to Silicon Valley, you could talk about it on TikTok, because they have like different things that they censor there. But no, like it's going to now probably be owned by Microsoft, and Microsoft is probably going to have the exact same terms of service and apply them exactly the same like any other Silicon Valley company, which is like a cartel at this point. They work in unison. But there's a caveat, apparently. Like the US president is saying that he is going to allow this deal only if the US government is going to get a big cut of the percentages. So he's literally doing what the Chinese are doing. Like exactly that. And legally, I think he's allowed. I couldn't hear anything from any lawyer saying, no, he's not allowed. It's going to be an interesting precedent. apparently, but it's not illegal actually. So this is very interesting. And the Chinese people are livid. They're saying that this is discrimination and blah 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 blah. Oh yeah, discriminatory policies. You literally are doing this with every single American company that wants to work in China. Every single one. Like I love these hypocrites. You know, like that. Oh, how dare you do what we are doing to you? How dare you? And what's even funny is that they actually understand what they're doing. Like, this is not something that they're doing out of ignorance. They're banking on the fact that the American people don't know that this is happening. They are trying to get the American people to say, oh, look, the president is being racist towards China. It's just some, irrational reasons that he is doing this for. It's like, no, he is literally treating them the same way that the Chinese are treating American companies. In fact, it's actually better because you're not being owned by the government. You're still being owned by a company like Microsoft, which the Chinese government can still control to an extent. And not to mention, like, you know what, like, the hypocrisy is so big. Do you know how many American apps and American websites are banned in China? They even have, like, this thing called the Great Chinese Firewall. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous that they have the audacity to complain about discrimination when they're banning things left and right. It's hilarious. Like, any single person that is versed into world politics should be laughing about this nonstop. But, you know, like, you have bad faith actors, because I'm pretty sure people like David Hogg, like, they know, but they're just, you know, pretending to be offended, as you've seen. And I'm pretty sure, like him, there's millions others that they know, but they pretend to be offended in order to show virtue, and it's like, oh, look how offended we are, oh, blah, blah, blah. Don't buy into these people. Don't buy, like, I'm pretty sure they know, and they're being disingenuous. So, protect yourself from disingenuous people. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you guys in the comment section.